Welcome to our channel. Today's story is about an ant, but this is not just any ordinary insect. This is a story about the hidden power of hard work, the unstoppable force of consistency, and how the smallest choices we make every single day can completely transform our lives and inspire the world around us. If you have ever felt too small to make a difference, or if you are struggling to stay motivated on your own daily grind, Pip's journey is exactly what you need to hear today. Grab a comfortable seat, clear your mind, and let's dive deep into the world beneath our feet. Chapter 1. The Awakening of Number 44. Deep beneath the roots of the ancient oak tree, where the soil was packed tight and cool, a tiny life began. In the pitch-black darkness of the nursery chambers, a small casing cracked open. Out stepped Pip. To the rest of the colony, he was simply known as Number 44, a newly emerged worker ant of the Formica tribe. He did not possess the massive, bone-crushing jaws of the soldier ants, nor did he have the elegant, translucent wings of the young queens. He was small, grayish-black, and possessed nothing but 6 thin legs, 2 sensitive antennae, and an innate, unspoken blueprint embedded deep within his mind. From the very second his exoskeleton hardened in the warm, humid air of the nursery, Pip knew his purpose. There was no orientation day. There was no long, drawn-out training seminar. An older worker, whose antennae were scarred from years of clearing rough soil, brushed past him, leaving behind a subtle chemical trail. The scent spoke of duty, of urgency, and of the greater good. It was a silent command. Follow. Pip fell into line. His first job was humble but vital. He was assigned to the nursery refuse team. His daily work consisted of carrying tiny, microscopic grains of dirt and old larval casings from the deep chambers up to the surface disposal mounds. The journey was long and steep. For a creature less than a quarter of an inch long, climbing up a vertical dirt shaft packed with thousands of rushing bodies was the human equivalent of scaling Mount Everest while carrying a giant mattress on one's back. On his first day, Pip struggled immensely. His legs grew weary after just 3 trips. The air in the lower tunnels was thick and heavy with the scent of pheromones, carbon dioxide, and damp earth. He dropped his load of dirt 3 times, causing brief traffic jams in the narrow passageway. Other, larger workers bumped into him, their hard carapaces clicking loudly in disapproval. Keep moving, the chemical signals around him seemed to whisper. The colony does not pause, the colony does not wait. Pip wanted to rest. He wanted to curl up in one of the quiet, unused side tunnels and sleep for days. He questioned whether his tiny efforts even mattered in a colony of millions. But every time he felt like quitting, he looked at the senior workers around him. Some were missing parts of their antennae, others moved with a slight limp from encounters with spiders or rival colonies on the surface, yet not a single one of them stopped. They moved with a mechanical, beautiful rhythm. They did not complain. They did not cry out in frustration. They simply lifted, carried, and marched. Pip took a deep breath, adjusted his grip on a grain of sand that was twice the size of his head, and pushed forward. By the end of his first week, his legs felt stronger. His grip was surer. He had learned the first major lesson of his life. The initial shock of hard work passes, leaving behind the iron foundation of endurance. He realized that the first step to greatness is simply showing up and doing the raw, unglamorous work when nobody is watching. Chapter 2. The rhythm of the trail. Months passed, and Pip was promoted from the dark underground tunnels to the bright, overwhelming world of the surface foraging teams. The first time he stepped out of the colony's main entrance, the sheer scale of the universe nearly paralyzed him. The sky was an endless expanse of blinding blue. The blades of grass were like towering green skyscrapers that swayed violently in the wind. The scent profile of the outside world was a chaotic symphony of pine needles, decaying wood, sweet flower nectar, and the terrifying, musky odor of passing birds. It was here that Pip discovered the true meaning of consistency. Every single morning, just as the first rays of the sun warmed the top of the dirt mound, the foraging trail was formed. Pip's daily work was simple yet incredibly demanding. He had to walk a straight line across 40 yards of dense forest floor, find a designated food source, secure a piece of it, and bring it back. 40 yards might seem short, but to Pip, It was a multi-mile trek filled with treacherous terrain. A single fallen leaf was a massive hill that had to be climbed. A puddle of rainwater was a vast, impassable ocean capable of drowning him in an instant. A sudden gust of wind was a hurricane that could blow him feet off course, forcing him to spend hours finding his way back to the pheromone trail. Pip quickly realized that genius or luck mattered very little on the foraging trail. What mattered was consistency. The colony survived not because one ant found a massive prize by accident, but because thousands of ants walked the exact same path, day in and day out, without fail. Pip became a master of the daily routine. He woke up at the same vibration of the earth. He joined the line at the exact same spot. He marched at a steady, unchanging pace. If it rained, he took shelter under a twig, waited for the downpour to stop, and immediately stepped back onto the wet earth to rebuild the washed-away trail. If a giant human foot stepped near the line, scattering the ants in terror, Pip would wait for the vibrations to clear, return to the point of disruption, and start walking again. One afternoon, while searching near the base of a wild raspberry bush, Pip encountered a young grasshopper. The grasshopper was sitting on a broad dock leaf, basking in the warm afternoon sun, tuning his legs to make a cheerful buzzing sound. "Why do you run back and forth all day, little ant?" the grasshopper chirped lazily, looking down at Pip, who was sweating under the weight of a dried caterpillar segment. "The sun is warm today. The forest is beautiful. Come sit on this leaf and enjoy the music. There will always be food tomorrow." Pip paused for a brief fraction of a second. His antennae twitched. He looked up at the vast green world, feeling the temptation of the warm sun. It would be so easy to drop the caterpillar segment. It would be so easy to rest. But Pip looked back at the long line of his brothers and sisters stretching across the dirt. He knew something the grasshopper did not. Summer is a brief loan, and winter always collects its debts. Without a sound, Pip adjusted his load, gave a polite twitch of his antennae to the grasshopper, and kept walking. He chose the consistency of labor over the fleeting comfort of laziness. He understood that daily work is an investment in a future that hasn't arrived yet. While others were singing in the temporary warmth, Pip was building an unshakable foundation for the cold days ahead. Chapter 3, The Wrath of the Summer Storm. The true test of consistency is not how you perform on sunny days, but how you react when your entire world is turned upside down. In the middle of the hot season, a sudden, violent summer storm slammed into the forest. It arrived without warning. The sky turned a dark, bruised purple, and giant raindrops began to crash onto the forest floor like heavy, explosive artillery shells. To a human, it was a heavy shower. To the ant colony, it was an apocalyptic event. Pip was nearly a mile away from the nest when the first raindrop struck. The impact blasted him sideways into a patch of moss. Within minutes, the neat, orderly pheromone trails were completely washed away. The ground dissolved into a churning river of mud and debris. Panicked ants ran in every direction, losing their sense of orientation as the familiar scents disappeared. Pip crawled beneath a thick piece of pine bark to shield himself. He could hear the terrifying roar of the wind above. He was cold, wet, and completely isolated. His tiny muscles shook from the drops in temperature. It would have been incredibly easy to stay hidden under that bark for days, waiting for someone else to rebuild the world. But Pip knew that inaction was a slow death. The moment the rain slowed to a drizzle, he stepped back out into the ruined wilderness. The landscape was unrecognizable. The smooth dirt paths were gone, replaced by deep canyons of mud. Instead of despairing, Pip began to work. He didn't wait for orders. He began to emit his own fresh pheromones, laying down a brand new trail through the wreckage. He picked up a small twig that was blocking a major bottleneck and dragged it out of the way. One by one, other lost ants caught his scent. They saw Pip, soaked and exhausted, calmly working to rebuild the path. Inspired by his steady, unbothered rhythm, they joined him. They didn't panic, they just copied his actions. By the time the sun broke through the clouds, an entirely new supply line had been established, bypassing the floodwaters. Pip proved that a true anchor is not moved by the storm. Instead, it provides a safe harbor for everyone else to gather around. Chapter 4, The Great Crisis. The seasons continued to shift. and the bitter weeks of late autumn arrived. The air turned crisp and cold, and the leaves fell from the trees in great, colorful sheets, burying the forest floor. Food was becoming incredibly scarce. The colony's underground granaries were nearly full, but the Queen had issued a final, urgent call for high-protein sustenance to carry the newest brood through the deep winter freeze. Pip was leading a foraging platoon near the edge of a gravel path when they discovered an absolute treasure. It was a massive, intact maple leaf that had fallen from a nearby tree. What made this leaf special was that its stem was coated in a thick, sticky layer of sweet, crystallized honeydew drops, aphid secretions that were incredibly rich in energy and sugar. It was enough to feed an entire section of the nursery for a month. However, there was a massive problem. The leaf had fallen across a deep, jagged fissure in the gravel path. It was wedged tightly between two sharp rocks, suspended over a dark abyss that dropped down into a drainage pipe. To harvest the honeydew, the ants would have to climb onto the dangling leaf, cut it into manageable pieces, and haul it up a near-vertical gravel wall. "It is too dangerous," signaled one of the older foragers, his antennae trembling. "The wind is picking up. If the leaf shifts, anyone on it will fall into the dark hole. We should look for easier seeds elsewhere." But Pip looked at the honeydew. He knew that easier seeds would not be enough to sustain the colony through the harsh months ahead. True hard work means leaning into the difficult tasks when everyone else is looking for an easy escape or a shortcut. "I will go first," Pip signaled. He climbed down the loose, unstable gravel wall, his tiny claws gripping the microscopic edges of the stones. When he reached the dangling maple leaf, the wind caught it, causing the entire structure to sway violently over the deep crevice. Pip's heart raced, but he did not retreat. He crawled out onto the slippery surface of the leaf and immediately began using his mandibles to saw through the tough, fibrous stem to release a section covered in honeydew. The work was brutal. Each bite into the wooden fiber sent vibrations through his tiny skull. His jaw muscles throbbed with a burning ache. 1 hour passed, then 2. The sun began to dip below the horizon, taking the warmth of the day with it. Pip's legs shook with exhaustion, but he refused to stop. He bit, twisted, and tore at the fiber, millimeter by millimeter. Seeing Pip's unwavering dedication, 3 other ants from his platoon crawled down to join him. Inspired by his complete lack of fear, they formed a small semicircle around the stem, working in perfect synchronization. Their jaws clicked in unison, a rhythmic song of pure, unadulterated hard work. Suddenly, a massive blast of autumn wind ripped through the gravel path. The rock holding the leaf shifted. With a sickening crack, the main body of the maple leaf tore free, plunging down into the dark drainage abyss below. But Pip and his crew did not fall. The very last microsecond, Pip had grabbed hold of the harvested honeydew chunk with his jaws, while anchoring his back legs to a tiny root growing out of the gravel wall. The weight of the sugar chunk was immense, nearly 10 times his own body weight. The strain on his tiny frame was agonizing. He felt as though his legs were about to be torn violently from his thorax. "Hold on," the ants above signaled frantically. Pip closed his compound eyes. He did not let go. He did not give up. He focused entirely on the single square millimeter of root beneath his rear claws. He became a living anchor. He held on through sheer force of will, refusing to let the fruit of their hard work be lost to the dark. Slow, agonizing inch by inch, the helper ants scrambled down, secured the food chunk, and pulled Pip back up to the safety of the main trail. When they finally reached the top of the mound, Pip was too exhausted to move. His carapace was covered in dust, and his legs were stiff. But as he watched the massive chunk of honeydew being carried down into the safety of the nest, a deep, quiet sense of pride filled his tiny being. He had faced the absolute limit of his physical strength and had chosen not to break. Chapter 5. The ripple of inspiration. As the bitter cold of winter finally locked the forest in a sheet of frost and snow, the colony retreated deep underground, sealing the main entrances with packed mud and pebbles. The bustling world of the surface was replaced by the cozy, dim warmth of the subterranean chambers. Pip, now an elder worker with a scarred carapace and a slow, deliberate stride, spent his days in the lower nursery levels. His days of long-distance foraging were over. His body could no longer handle the brutal miles or the heavy lifting. Instead, he was given the role of a nursery guardian, tending to the eggs and getting the newly emerged larvae. One afternoon, a young ant, number 112, emerged from her cocoon. She was small, weak, and terrified by the dark, crowded environment of the nest. When she was assigned her first task, clearing a heavy pile of limestone dust from a collapsed tunnel, she sat in the corner of the chamber, her antennae drooping in complete despair. "It is too hard," she signaled to Pip, her tiny body trembling. "The rocks are too heavy, I am too small, my work doesn't make a difference anyway. There are millions of us. If I stop, no one will even notice." Pip crawled over to her slowly. He did not scold her. He did not threaten her with the soldier ants. Instead, he gently touched his antennae to hers, sharing a memory through a chemical transfer, a process known as sensory sharing. Through that simple touch, Pip passed on his life story to the young ant. He shared the memory of his very first day in the nursery refuse team, the agonizing pain of his legs, and his early desire to quit. He shared the image of the lazy grasshopper on the raspberry leaf, and the deep satisfaction of choosing consistency over comfort. Finally, he shared the vivid, terrifying memory of the dangling maple leaf over the dark abyss, and the incredible feeling of holding 10 times his weight to save his family from starvation. The young ant sat perfectly still, absorbing the flood of memories. She saw that this old, scarred elder had once been just as small, just as weak, and just as terrified as she was. She realized that his strength was not something he was born with. It was something he had built, grain of sand by grain of sand, through daily work and consistency. Inspiration is a powerful chemical. It doesn't change the size of the obstacle, but it completely changes the heart of the worker facing it. Number 112 lifted her antennae. Her posture straightened. Without saying a word, she walked over to the pile of limestone dust, gripped a piece of rock that was far larger than her head, and began to pull. Pip watched her go, a quiet warmth filling his chest. He realized that his hard work had achieved something far greater than just gathering food or digging tunnels. It had created a standard. It had left behind a legacy of resilience that would live on in the next generation, long after his own 6 legs had grown still. Chapter 6. The Eternal Trail. Spring returned to the forest. The snow melted into bubbling brooks, and the warm sun once again kissed the top of the ancient oak tree's roots. The mud doors of the colony were broken open, and a fresh, vibrant stream of black bodies poured out into the green world, eager to rebuild the trails. Pip sat near the entrance of the mound, basking in the morning warmth. His antennae twitched as he watched the endless line of foragers march out into the wilderness. At the head of one of the main platoons was number 112, moving with a confident, rhythmic stride, leading her own group of young workers toward the raspberry bushes. Pip's life was coming to its natural end. His joints were stiff, and his carapace was brittle, but he felt no sadness, no regret. He looked at the massive, thriving city beneath the earth, a city built entirely on the tiny, individual contributions of millions of hardworking individuals who chose to do their duty every single day. He had learned that no life is too small to be meaningful. No task is too humble to be done with excellence. True greatness is not found in a single spectacular moment of glory, but in the quiet, unyielding discipline of daily work, the dedication to hard work against all odds, the unwavering power of consistency, and the beautiful gift of inspiring others to keep marching forward. With a final, content sigh of his antennae, Pip closed his eyes, listening to the beautiful, rhythmic clicking of a million tiny feet continuing the eternal trail. What an incredible journey. Pip started as just an unnamed number in a colony of millions, but through pure consistency, he changed his entire community. As we close today's video, let's look at the 3 major lessons we can take from Pip's life and apply to our own world. Small steps matter. You don't need to conquer your entire mountain today. You just need to carry your single grain of sand. Big results are simply the compound effect of small, daily actions done with high discipline. Consistency over comfort. The grasshopper enjoyed the sun, but faced starvation in the winter. When you choose to do your daily work even when you don't feel like it, you are building a shield against the difficult times of your life. Your energy is contagious. When you work with excellence and refuse to quit, you become a beacon of inspiration for everyone around you. Your dedication can give someone else the strength to keep pushing forward. Thank you so much for watching today's story. If Pip's journey inspired you to keep working hard on your own goals, please hit that like button. For more videos like this, subscribe to our channel and improve your English by simple and easy English stories and biographies. Drop a comment below with the phrase, "I will keep marching," to let us know you made it to the very end of the video. Until next time, stay consistent, keep working hard, and we will see you in the next video.